Good evening or morning, depending on where you are, everyone. I am Kirk Henderson. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. I would say I'm joined by Josh tonight, but I insisted he take the night off because these two games against Los Angeles Clippers, there was going to be one good one and there was going to be one bad one. It was a matter of which one it was going to be. And Josh has been working his tail off this year, so I insisted that he do something else tonight. Once we saw the injury report, this felt like one of these games where, unless the Mavericks came out with, really unnaturally hot shooting, things would have, it was pretty written in stone. And that's how this game went. The Mavericks couldn't buy a three. I don't think they made one the entire first half. They only ended up making 4 in the game. They were really quite bad, 4 of 20 from 3. And they could not score points in this game. It was a really painful one to watch. They only scored 16 in the opening quarter. And then they scored 20 points pretty early on in the second. They got up to 20. But then they weren't able to score again until almost the 6-minute mark. They had they had 20 points in the first 18 minutes of the basketball game. But the problem was, by that point, the Clippers had double. They were already up by 20. The game was out of hand, and it was largely a matter of just getting through it, seeing what would work. And this was one really for the sickos. So if you turned it off, if you decided to do something else, I don't blame you. This was a pretty painful game. This is a fun question in the chat up on Twitter. The Chosen One asks, after watching the last 3 games, is Brandon Williams actually kind of good? Or is he just a good story and I'm trying to delude myself? It's insane, the difference. What Brandon Williams is a functional NBA level player. The Mavericks don't have distributing guards past Spencer Dinwiddie on the roster. There's not, I guess if you want Najee in more of a distributing role, but he is a play finisher much more than he is a play initiator. And that's really where it is for me. So just to circle back to the game, by halftime, the Mavericks only scored 19 points in the second quarter after scoring 16 in the first. The Clippers were up to 58 points. It was 58-35. The game was effectively over. And this was just one, you're sort of walking through the motions, seeing what might happen, seeing if anyone would turn it on for the Mavericks. And in large part, the answer to that question ended up being no. The Mavericks had 17 turnovers. Ivica Zubac proved way too big for the Mavericks. That's kind of been the case just over the years. He's a very effective center. In his 27 minutes, he had 14 points and 13 rebounds. But he had 7 offensive rebounds. He ended up, it's kind of funny, he had 9 rebounds in the first quarter. And this game was more or less over. And it's not one of those things you want to write home about too much and complain, because once you saw Derek Lively would obviously be missing this game. They weren't going to play him on a back-to-back. They were going to pick one of the two. And once that happened, I'm sure they probably had to tell Anthony Davis he was only going to get to play one of the two, though he would have been useful tonight. The Clippers are frankly just not a good matchup for the Mavericks. Between Zubac is a very unique in today's NBA center. You get a Jokic, a Zubac, and that's kind of, there might be a couple of other like big ass low post centers that are able to use their center of gravity the way like the centers from the 90s and the 2000s used to. Then they have just an array of interesting wings and scorers. You saw a Dallas Mavericks fan favorite last year, Derek Jones Jr. He played 23 minutes. Obviously, you have Kawhi Leonard. Then with kind of the guard play and the just the offensive prowess of like a guy like Norm Powell. And then Jim Harden, who had a pretty subpar game, which really worries me, to be honest, for tomorrow or for tomorrow night. And then obviously Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard was really good. But also, if you weren't watching the game too closely, you probably didn't really notice him. 20 points on 17 shots isn't really good. But I don't think he plays tomorrow night because I don't think he plays back-to-backs. So, this is just one to where if you're a person that really wants the Mavericks to really make a go of this, and mathematically speaking, within the playoffs, this is there's no reason for them not to. They are probably, even if they lost every single game, I don't think that would put them out of the play-in at this point. That's how bad this Western Conference stretch has been. I mean, they played the Clippers one more time, they played the Lakers, and then I think they won one more game after that, maybe two. It's just kind of an ugly go. So, you're watching the third quarter. They get it down to within 21 points, which is like the closest they had been for a while. And then the fourth quarter starts, and the game was up in the 30s. I mean, the Clippers led by as many. Pretty sure I have this right. Just want to make sure. The Clippers led by as many as 35 points. And then, you're watching the fourth quarter. And at this point in the game, in the fourth quarter, you're really only hoping that everybody can get out of the game healthy and alive. And both teams are just kind of playing. They're going through the motions. Nobody's really trying to do anything other than, score baskets like in a loosely played pickup game. And I was not able to get a good angle on the injury, but Jaden Hardy came down and rolled his right ankle again. And he did like a backflip in pain, like on the ground, like a backward somersault. And in typical Mavericks fashion, they did not stop the fucking game to get him off the court. And he ended up like rolling on the ground like a fish for a few minutes, and then he had to be helped off. And, I make fun of Hardy a lot because I think he's a pretty limited player. But given what the Mavericks have, they need guys who are small and can dribble and can drive. I didn't mention this earlier, but Klay Thompson didn't play the second half due to, quote, illness. I made the joke that he was sick of this fucking basketball team. But you go through the lineup right now, guys. Let's just kind of go through it together. PJ Washington, Najee Marshall, Daniel Gafford, Spencer Dinwiddie, Klay Thompson, Kai Jones, Caleb Martin, Dwight Powell, Max Christie, Anthony Davis, Derek Lively. There's not any guards in that group outside of Spencer. And Spencer playing pretty well. And, tonight he was a -20, but he didn't do anything that drove me crazy other than play terrible defense. But that's just kind of the bar for Spencer. That's sort of where we are. Okay. We're only like 10 minutes into this one. I'm supposed to go 20 minutes for almost every show. I have to insert a couple of ads real quick. It's just sort of the nature of the new thing here. But if you guys are listening on the live stream, there's not too many people in here tonight. I don't really blame you. It's a Friday night. It's a terrible basketball game. But I'm committed to doing this. And if you guys would like to come talk any basketball, there is a pinned post in the comments where you can click in and join the show live. I'm going to insert a couple of ads, and then I will be right back. Okay. This is a good point in the chat. Kawhi might as well play the next game because he only played 24 minutes, and it's going to be so difficult for y'all if AD plays tomorrow. Yes, AD doesn't make much of a difference to this game. It's not like I'd be curious. This is we have Leo in the chat. I'm going to bring him up in a second. I don't know what AD does that helps this team like this. Like the Clippers are they can kind of score from all over the place. Zubac is such a like a load at center. I don't think Anthony Davis really bothers him. Yeah, it's just that's an interesting one. Okay, Leo, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hi, I wanted to talk more about the play-in, if you don't mind.
Sure, but I got to preface it with I am really bad about the specifics. I need to know this stuff, and I just my brain won't accept it. But I'm going to pull up the Mavs Moneyball article that Jordan Brodas wrote. So go ahead. We'll see what we can do.
I mean, the last time we had to worry about this, we were just trying to tank for D Live.
Trying to get out of it.
Yeah. And everyone threw a hissy fit because we didn't control our destiny, and I really don't like your friend.
So, tell me, what do we got?
Well, with the teams ahead of us, are you kind of I wouldn't say have the bad feeling that they're going to make the playoffs, but you just kind of accepted that the teams that are ahead of them, they just have good matchups against?
So let's see who we're kind of looking at right now. Technically, we're looking at the Clippers, who are in the play-in game. at the moment. So you got Clippers, Memphis, but I also think you got to throw Minnesota, who's the 6th seed. Minnesota would concern me. I don't want to play Anthony Edwards in a do or die game. Just don't want to. Memphis, I feel differently about. I just don't take Memphis seriously. They are on such a crash course. They've only won 3 of their last 7 games. The game that they won last night, they needed it, but it is a little bit of a joke. I would just that'd be the matchup for me, is to play. You play the Kings in the first game and hopefully beat the Kings. The Mavericks are only a half game up on the Kings in the standings. You play in Dallas, you hopefully put the Kings out of their misery. I don't think a 10 seed has ever actually won the first game. In the short history of the play-in. And, at that point, you just kind of, you wonder, can they beat whoever's above them? I think there's an element of this, which is why they're not showing all their cards against the Clippers, but they still have to win games. I don't know. It's an uncomfortable feeling.
And, just to deviate a little bit off the topic, but the amount of teams that have just kind of self-destructed over the last couple of months is insane. Even like based off of last year's Western Conference Finals, the Wolves kind of shit themselves whenever they traded. Cat, the Grizzlies, who are always really good at drafting players. That's kind of one of the things you're always like jealous about the team, where they always have a heavy bench, and they seem to have just completely lost the plot. And right now we have the Mavs, who are just dying to get into.
It's terrible. It's terrible. Like the play-in, I sort of think the NBA needs to scrap the play-in. Because it's not producing better basketball. It's not like the drama is all for what? So that a number 1 team can play like a burnt out team that they probably shouldn't be playing to begin with. I don't know. I have found this model of the play-in. It's fun once, but I think in order to really make it much more interesting is they need to flatline the
amount of wins in order to get into the actual play.
No, I think they need to flatline the odds for the lottery. So when I was a kid, a long time ago, everybody had the same odds. Well, and then the Magic won it twice in a row, and the owners lost their fucking minds and changed the rules. Because like, this isn't fair. And it's that. I think you would get some better playoff races and some people that would still be trying to make the play-in, even if they knew they would have the same chance as the number 1 pick as the team that was all the way down at the very bottom of the standings. So that's just my sort of take there.
Is that ever going to happen?
I don't know. I mean, they inched towards it. The change in lottery odds was pretty stark. Where it was the top 3, and then outside of the top 3, you can only jump into the top 3 is what the odds used. That was like part of the jump. But instead of the top 4, but then the odds were also much more heavier weighted to those top 3 worst teams to stay in the lottery. Because like when the Cavaliers won it, like with the pick that they had from the Clippers, like that was a bit that ended up being Kyrie Irving. That ended up being a really big deal. That sort of thing. So I don't know. I just find this part of the season so uninspiring. Like, do you remember last year, my friend Matt Moore, you alluded to him earlier, was basically dunking on the Mavericks for not like he was sitting there going, "Who cares about these March and April wins?" And
I remember
as I'm watching now from the other side of it, I get it, because like none of these games feel real. Like the Mavericks to this point, I'm pretty sure. I'm just going to go look at kind of their schedule. And again, you guys understand this. If you're listening to me, you at least you're either hate listening, you like me, or you're willing to sort of take my arguments for face value. But like Josh pointed this out, and other than the Rockets, they beat the Rockets. When was that? Okay, since March 1st. So since March 1st, the Mavericks have not beaten. No, man, it goes all the way back to February 21st. The Mavericks have beaten 1 team over that had a winning record since the All-Star break. Like there's nothing to take from this. Like you lose to Brooklyn, that feels terrible, but even a win against Brooklyn doesn't tell you anything because Brooklyn is terrible. So we're just kind of in this just painful situation where because the Maverick, you look for little things each and every game to kind of take away where it's like, oh, okay, that was an interesting thing that happened, or that's something that I hope player X could build on. Like there was a couple of Max Christie drives tonight that I liked, but beyond that, I'm just like, what am I learning about this particular team? They're just sort of they're going to get to the play-in, and maybe it'll be interesting because guys get up for important games. But that just feels like a low-hanging fruit hope. Do you know what I mean?
I understand, but I guess like the difference from this year to last year would have been that last year at least the games where Matt Moore was commenting, like that was against the Kings that had just come off playoff push and the first time in like 18 years, and those were solid games. Whereas this game, Kyrie's out, Hardy's out, AD's out,
Oh, I don't
G-Live's
necessarily
out.
mean our games. I just mean like
Mhm.
the NBA at large.
Oh, where like things just happen.
Right. So it's like today the Rockets got their blew the doors off the Thunder. And how much do I take away from that game?
You
I don't
can't.
know. Like it was really fun watching SGA get put into a box, but I just don't know if that's real.
I understand. Well, I hope you guys enjoy watching better games soon. Hope you have a good night.
Eric,
And
tell me. Yeah, thanks, Leo. We'll talk soon. All right. Eric, type your comment again. I want to read it. I mean, I think they have a much better. Like they sold this game. That's why you probably didn't hear me earlier, Eric, but Josh isn't joining us tonight because I was specifically like, only one of these games is going to be good. Because beating a team twice in a row, like back-to-back nights in the NBA is really actually quite difficult. So once we saw that AD was not going to play, I told him to take the night off because it's not that I was like expecting the Mavericks to lose, but I think if the game that AD's playing, your baseline like raises, rather precipitously. So we'll see how they do. I mean, I would expect if Kawhi doesn't play, I would rather expect the Mavericks to win tomorrow night, So we'll see where they go from here. It's I would really love them to like get to 500. If you go look at the schedule and what they've been doing the last couple of weeks, they have been let's see here. We go all the way back to March 10th with the win over the San Antonio Spurs was when they were like last at 500 because they had that stretch from March 1st until March 21st where they lost 9 out of 10 and so they were over 500, then they were under 500, and since then they've just not been able to get back to 500. So if they do beat the Clippers tomorrow night, that puts them one game within that 500 mark. And then they play the Lakers. So that Lakers game, we've talked about this over and over again because I think we're all really interested in the Lakers game. I think I knew this intellectually, but we didn't really mention this before. At least I don't think we have in Pod Maverick. Is that on Saturday, so tomorrow, they play the Clippers. They don't play the Lakers until Wednesday. So that's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, all of Wednesday off. So that's like 4-ish days, 4 like really good body day. The Lakers go on the road. They beat who did they beat tonight? Pelicans. They came back. Luka had a 0-for-7 start and then finished with a ton of points and was awesome. And Eric, thank you, Eric. You're actually getting to where I'm going. They play the Thunder on Sunday at Oklahoma City. Then they play the Thunder on Tuesday at Oklahoma City. Then they come to the Mavericks after a 2-game, it'll be their third game in 4 nights against the Mavericks, who will have basically 4 full days of rest. I had initially sort of taken the position of, oh crap, is Luka going to come out and score 75 points in the Mavericks? I kind of think the Mavericks might run them off the floor just because the Lakers are going to be tired. Swisher says Braun will probably sit out, ? I mean, that's a nationally televised game. The NBA will not want that. I wouldn't be shocked if the Lakers sold one of those 2 Thunder games because the Thunder are great. It's that is probably the thing that I'm rather curious about. So that would if the Mavericks win tomorrow, that puts them 1 game under 500, and then a win against the Lakers would put them at 500 finally. So I don't know. It's the math and the schedule, and I think when we were going back and we were looking at this way back at the beginning, before all the trades and all this stuff, we knew the January schedule was going to be brutal. We just knew that. But then Luka got hurt, and it was more than brutal. It was like kind of atrocious. This schedule down the stretch has been really soft, and the Mavericks were hurt, obviously really, really, really hurt. But they've managed to sort of hang. So we'll see where they go. And I think I would prefer at this point, because I think they're all but guaranteed a play-in spot. I want them to have the best chance possible. Is it not nationally televised, Eric? It's on ESPN. Yeah, it's Wednesday, April 9th on ESPN at 6:30 p.m. It's an early game, which is going to be weird. The Chosen One says Lakers Mavs play-in game, 1 game take all for a spot in the playoffs is the dream. It is possible if Oklahoma City takes both Lakers games seriously. I mean, it really is. The Western Conference is like just a mess. A couple of games really can send teams spiraling, which is why it was so important that the Mavericks beat the Hawks the other night, because if they would have lost to the Hawks and then lost tonight, then they would have absolutely needed a win Saturday. Like, they would have had to split this game. Whereas now I sort of think, like, even if they lose to the Clippers tomorrow and they fall back to the 10th seed, I still think they have a pretty okay path to being the 9th seed for the play-in. I don't know. I just watched today's game on the Disney Channel firsthand. I didn't watch anything on League Pass. What do you mean, Swisher Sweet? Sorry, I'm talking to my comments here. Because we do a live show. If anybody wants to come talk, we got a couple more. There's a link in the YouTube notes, show comments, where you can go up here and hang out with me for a few minutes. But I think we're kind of at the end of the show here. There's just not anything to talk about, nothing to rag on. Just, the only thing I feel bad for Jaden Hardy's injury. Like, they're just like trying to get out of this game fucking alive, and of course we can't. ESPN is on the Disney Channel now. Yes, but I don't know. I've not been able to figure out like what the cadence of when those games are and aren't on. But we'll figure that out. All right, guys. Decent crowd for what it was. We'll be on tomorrow night. Eric says, I don't think we fall back to 10th if we lose tomorrow, because we are a little bit ahead of Sacramento. So right now, let's go to NBA.com, because NBA.com's thing actually updates quickly, whereas ESPN's does not. So it looks like every game is final, because we were the last game of the night. The Mavericks are a half game ahead of Sacramento. A half game. And Sacramento has to play... God, this is like it's like accounting. This is so ridiculous. They play Cleveland on Sunday. So if the Mavericks fall, they then fall a half game behind. Is that right? Or do they tie? We don't own the problem is we don't own the tiebreaker with Sacramento. That's the real bitch. We just need to be flat out ahead of them. Is where we go. A couple guys in the chat are asking what happened to Clay. He didn't come back after halftime, and they said he was sick. I sort of wonder if they were like, you know what? We're just not going to play him so he can play tomorrow night. So we'll see. We will see. Let's go check the tiebreaker. This is good stuff, Eric. I'm glad you're asking these questions, because you're quite literally helping me out with the show. I am appreciative of that. Let's go look at the Mavericks schedule just to see what the season series is with the Kings. This is really good podcasting when I'm like reading stuff on air. The one that's like stuck in my brain is that garbage win the Kings got with the 9-step travel by what's his name? All right, so the Mavericks versus Sacramento season series. They beat us. Sacramento's won the series 3-0 because they beat the Mavericks on the New Year's Eve, 110-100. They beat the Mavericks on February 10th, 129-128 in overtime. That's the one where DeMar DeRozan walked like crazy. And then earlier in March, when we were down to like no players, they beat us 122-98. So that's where we go. Oh, well. The chosen one says, let's be honest, DeRozan is going to go for 40 on us in the play-in game. Man, come on. I'm in negative shit, and I don't think that'll happen. I hate the Kings. I've hated the Kings since 2003. Anyway, fun show. Thanks for letting me talk to myself for a half hour. Remember, guys, I'm going to be back with Josh tomorrow night, and if there's any interest, I'll do an actual Mavs party. I know there's not a lot of you guys that want to get up here on stage and chat with me, and I get it. It's not easy, but I am appreciative of you folks in the comments and those of you who are hanging out. Everybody be good. We will talk to everyone soon. Go Mavs.